Okay, it's ready whenever.
All right, well, welcome. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order, a regular Board of Education meeting on April the 10th. First item that we need to do this evening is to make an amendment to the agenda. We would like to, I move to move item J under business items, which is the Child Care Capacity Accelerator Community Grant, to item A, since Alan's here. I think that would be the only change.
I move to approve the changed agenda.
Second.
The motion second, all those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. We have some guests in the audience with us this evening that we would like to recognize at this time. So I think we have someone here to do that. We have wrestlers and also then boys and girls, and we have some powerlifting as well.
So, we're here for wrestling for high school girls and boys. We had a fantastic season. Both teams did very well. Ended up having, girl state champion again, Gabby Pappas. She repeated, as a state champion. So she won her second state title at 125 pounds. So, that was an awesome season on her part. And then, on the boys side, we had two boys state champs, Brett Loader at 165 pounds and Ethan Young at heavyweight. And then we had a third place finisher in Tucker Jackson. Boys team finished 5th in the state. Girls, Gabby was voted as regional wrestler of the year for class 4 through 1A. So a really good season, lots of good individual accomplishments from the league as well as state. The team was academic honorable mention. So yeah, got a lot of good accolades and achievements. The kids did, worked very hard. Well deserved. So.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, go ahead and come on up. I believe it's Gabby that showed up tonight, so.
Congratulations, you guys.
Heavyweight, and then Gabby was a repeat state champion.
So Gabby, does that make 5 sports in a row that you've made it to state? Isn't it? Cross-country wrestling, track, cross-country wrestling. Nice job.
Congratulations. Nice to done. Okay,
Oh,
we
Bill.
have powerlifting.
Alright. So I had powerlifting. We were able to do 2 meets this year. We did 1 meet online, which has kind of become a thing where we just host, well, some foreign school hosts a powerlifting meet, but we get to do it in our weight room. So they just live stream that kind of deal, me and everything in. So that was our first one. And then the 3A state powerlifting was at Santa Fe Trail. And Rachel and Cole, you guys can come up here to stand up here with me. We took 9 to state. Cole won the hang clean in the 198-pound weight class, 315 pounds. And then Rachel won bench press in the ladies power weight. So that was big for her as well. And that was on her second attempt. She, how officials work every now and then, you get a call you didn't really like, and she smoked her third one and they didn't call it, but she still won on her second attempt. So both had a great day and missed the top 3 overall by 10, 15 pounds. So pretty close, but had an outstanding day and a lot of good things shown by our kids. So powerlifting.
Congratulations.
You guys did it. Okay, received communications. Saying it's there. No. Move on to citizens open forum. Okay. Move on then to positive board comments.
I wanted to congratulate all the students that were recognized at the CCCHS Academic Awards Night. That was last week, maybe. Weeks are running together this time of year. But I also really enjoyed the Hall of Fame presentations at that, the 3 people that were honored. It was just a great presentation, great to hear what they've accomplished. And again, congrats to the students for their academic success.
Since the last time we met, the Stardusters performance from the high school band, as well as included a performance by the Tiger Crowd. they did a wonderful job and it was a wonderful program and you could tell that the band has put in a lot of hours to provide such a great concert. It was very nice. So thank you to the students and band directors for doing such a great job.
Right, well, good luck to all the upcoming fine arts competitions that are coming up these next 2 weeks and from this weekend. Yeah, all the hard work that parents and teachers and kids have to do for that.
I also wanted to make mention, it was in Mr. Young's principal's report, and I don't oftentimes get to share some of that information, but I thought one of the things that happened this last month was the People's Choice Awards for some of the students and their hard work in the entrepreneurship challenge. So that was brought about this last month, and we had a lot of businesses that also participated. So that's a lot of community involvement. So I wanted to share that. So number one, thank you to them for being involved with our students. And wanted to give a shout out to third place, which was T&A Candle Company, Trevor Strauss and Aubrey Schlesinger. If I mispronounced that, I apologize. I probably did. Second place, Blueberry Bakehouse with Emma Flegon, and first place was Gurney Graphics, Patty Gurney. So I enjoyed reading that this month in the principal report. That's those kiddos. Anybody have anything else? Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. To discuss there.
I have a question on the stadium expenditures, or I guess we call it. Why didn't we do a RFP on the loan?
That's what VHS helped us do under the owner scope. So they helped us with the restroom concession building, the concrete and all of those pieces.
So what do we have to do on the concrete tonight? Is that different?
Well, it's been so long that the bids weren't honored anymore, and so we had to go back out to bid. I guess prices change enough in that world where you have a pretty short window on when they honor prices.
You guys have any questions?
There's another deal on that, when we talked on our facility tour, we talked 35,000 for track equipment, I believe.
That'll be in the capital outlay.
Right, but I noticed on the stadium project, we spent 42.5 and another 14.5 on track equipment.
In
I
the
think that's
stadium,
the fit, isn't it?
yeah, in the stadium,
Is that the relocating of the pits? Is that part? Okay, that has nothing to do with because it says long jump, pole vault.
yeah, that's the actual moving of the concrete, the rubber that we bid out, and United Sports won that bid to relocate those. But it's not actually any mats or
Right.
stuff kids.
So why, so it was 42.5 and then another 14.5, so $57,000 to move those pits.
Well, we could go back to the bid, and Andrea helped me. You guys awarded that bid.
I just noticed the one bill is 4/12 to 23 and 4/12 to 23 is 2 days from now. Today's the 10th. And
So
there's another couple other bills on there, 4/12 to 23, and that's 2 days from now. So I was kind of didn't really know why those were on there, but they are.
So with the ACH, we've kind of started trying to streamline some of the ways that we transmit payments, and we've shifted more to an ACH just because of security reasons. With the amount of fraud that's going on. So anyhow, with the ACH stuff, we upload a file to the bank and it disperses. But if you don't approve a bill, like if I upload it, I have to upload it a day in advance. So if I upload it today, it disperses tomorrow. And I don't have time to pull anything back
If you guys wouldn't approve.
if you wouldn't approved it. So we pushed it back. It would have been usually back in the day when we cut checks, we'd cut them the day after the board meeting after they approved. But with the ACH stuff, you had to, so we just have an extra day just in case there's something that happens.
And our business office has been doing a good job monitoring this. We get regular updates from KSD, and some of the fraud that's been happening with some of these groups, they've been specifically targeting school districts and companies they know that they do business with. And so they'll time their move to try to catch the paper check in the mail. And so they'll steal it out of the vendors. Like if they know we do a lot of business with a certain company, they'll try to find that school district's check, pull it out of the mail. They'll do whatever they do to it and deposit it wirelessly from a bank in some other state. And then by the time everyone catches up with it, the money's gone. And by doing ACH, it removes some fraud factor from the equation. But we can't pay a bill ACH until you guys approve it. And so she has to post date that past the meeting, if that makes sense.
Okay, any other questions?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Any motion? There's a second. There's a motion and second to approve the items on the consent agenda. Any other questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. Take us then to business item. No, sorry, don't put reports. Anyone on the board have anything to report on this month? Move then to Mr. Nelson's report.
Thank you. Graduation is coming up in May, and the high schools and Clay Center and the high school in Wakefield are both on May 13th. The high schools is at 10 a.m. and Wakefield's is at 2 p.m. And I was hoping you guys always in the past have chosen to have a rep or two in each graduation, and I just wanted to see if we could get commitments tonight from you guys on what you wanted to do in regards to board member representation at graduation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay.
I would defer to people who had high school aged students at this time. At college graduation. Go to college graduation, I think.
I go with you.
I can do the center again. Okay.
I am planning to go to Expect Success, which I thought we should also discuss since we're bringing up commencement.
Jacqueline, what date and time for expected?
On our board is Thursday, May 18th at 1 p.m.
You guys are all invited to that.
And the board usually distributes the retirees. At least have a couple of you there, that'd be great.
Just plan on attending. So Deb, both Clay Center and Wakefield, okay, Jason Wakefield, and I can do Clay Center. Okay, so anybody else wants to? Okay, there you go.
All right.
Will we get a place confirmed this year?
Or it's gonna do auditorium or give me a confirmation as to where it's gonna be held?
I haven't followed up with Mr. Young, but I believe they were leaning towards the gym. So, but I have not, he's not confirmed that officially. We did receive our, this is the time of year where KSD comes in and does our audit on our SO 66 and our principals building reports. So all of that data is the data that we get funded on. So they come in and they'll do the secondary audits in regards to free and reduced lunch, students that are on site for the 20th. And if they're not there on the 20th, they have to be there one day before and one day after September 20th to get counted. They also audit the CTE hours that we report our students participating in, bilingual, at-risk head count, which includes what do they call verification. So they'll do verification. So they do a random audit of all the families that submitted for free and reduced lunch. And they pull those applications and verify the data that the family submitted is accurate and correct. And then they adjust our weighting for at-risk. Either way, or based on those verifications, we did have the highest head count that we have ever had as a school district as it relates to at-risk funding, and that is for students who qualify for free lunches or breakfast. Also for the first time in history that I could find, we also received high density weightings. And so that's based on formulas either as a building or as a district, and we qualified as a district based on the number of students that, or the density or the percents of free and reduced lunch within a building. And so we did receive 11.3 was the audited FTE for that, which was actually a little higher than what we had plugged into our open page when we did the budget in July, which is a good thing. They also audit transportation. And so we get funded for students who live outside of 2.5 miles. And so they'll also do verifications to ensure that the data that we submitted on the students that live within that distance, that we reported that accurately. Also, along with that is virtual. And so then they take your head count, your FTE, and then they give you your weighted enrollment. And that's what our funding formula is based on. Again, an exciting news that we've shared, 4 years ago in 1920, we hit our lowest enrollment as a county school district in history. And ever since 1920, we've been going back up. And so every year we've been able to increase a little bit more FTE or head count. And so next year, our base head count will be 1289.5. But they also include a head count for your at-risk 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. And so you get those numbers current year, whereas your head count is either the prior year, the preceding year, whichever's higher. And so our base will be at 1289.5 next year. And then we'll get our also our preschool aged at-risk 3 and 4-year-olds. And so I would anticipate us being 3 to 5 students even higher than what the 1289.5 is. But overall, very positive information, especially in the at-risk category. And as I explained when we budgeted in July, that at-risk funding is based on a very specific research-based list. Or is a list the KSD puts out of allowable expenditures through at-risk. And then both our private audit and KSD audits our expenditures to ensure that our expenditures within the at-risk fund meet those criteria. As you will see down a little bit further as it relates to ELA, the ELA curriculum adoption does align to the allowable expenditures within the at-risk fund. And so very positive that we're able to use some of that additional funding to help cover a qualified expense, pending you guys agree to that. So all in all, good information, increased our CTE hours more than we have in the last few years, which was another positive. I think we ended up with another 4.5 FTE additional funding for CTE. So that's really good news. More students taking those advantage of those classes and more opportunities provided. Any other?
4.5.
It's not for CTE, so CTE,
First column, first row, all the way to the right.
okay,
So in July, we estimate what we believe is going to be our contact hours. And there's some unknowns there based on enrollment. And then it's based on how many kids are taking those classes on September 20th. And then the audit comes in and they say, how many students really participated? And we had more than we estimated. And we always typically estimate what we received the prior year. So that means we were up 4.5 FTE from the prior year. Good information. Legislative update, not a lot to share as they're on recess for the next 3 weeks. One update, I was trying to follow it. My family was out of town, out of state visiting family. But they did take some action. I believe they were late all night, Thursday night, trying to adjourn for recess. One, in my viewpoint, one positive result was that the Senate Bill 83 did not pass. And so in my mind, that's a positive for public education, and hopefully that will allow them the opportunity to go back and rethink some of those things. And again, as I shared last month, from my perspective, the parent choice piece as it relates to vouchers or ESAs is not that necessarily against parent choice at all. It's just, in my opinion, if we're going to give public tax dollars to non-public schools, then they should be held accountable as public schools are. I think, in my opinion, that's not too much to ask, and hopefully they will hear that. I've talked to some of our legislators, and they said they heard from more of their constituents than they have ever heard from. And so that means that people are involved in making their own decisions and contacting their legislators. Mr. Bloom has asked myself and a group of area superintendents to come to the Capitol. I think it's April 25th to visit with the speaker, and he just and share our opinions and our thoughts on some of the upcoming legislation. And so we just sent that invite out to a few local soups today, and so we will go to the Capitol. And I think the big thing for Mr. Bloom from his angle is, I don't live and breathe public school finance or funding as you guys do. And from his viewpoint and what he shared with me is he would like us to have the opportunity to share some facts and some data with folks at the Capitol. So we'll look forward to doing that here in a few weeks. So. Yeah.
That's a great sign that Representative Bloom is gathering input from a variety of sources. So you'll have to update us after you share on the 25th.
It's been shared to me that sometimes they're not certain groups aren't very welcoming, but we will go and do our best.
All right, so let's move on then to the LF report. Yeah, have anything to add?
No, I was in just one thing, in a meeting last Thursday, and the State Department was there, and I think the school board is voting. We're gonna at least talk about the issue at their meeting this month on maybe extending that letting substitute teachers teach a little bit longer, because that's gonna revert back to how it was before, and that's how we feel positioned. So we're very hopeful that they go ahead and approve that. So I'm not sure what date their meeting is. Is it this week or next? Should be this week or next week. But she said it was that it was on a topic that they were gonna discuss. So, hopefully we can.
Which is one of the things that you brought up in your report last month.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, anybody have any questions for Anita? Okay, move on into the director of curriculum.
Okay, I listed a few PD things on there for you guys. One is passed, one's coming up. On the 5th, we did work as our district leadership team and are excited that we've kind of narrowed down our 2 goal areas. It's been, we kind of did some work off of your strategic planning, just piggybacked off of that. Worked with the DLT, they went back with all of their staff at the last early release. Turned in things, and what kind of sifted to the top is we're going to be creating a goal related to reading, and then one related to kind of social and emotional learning, and more focus on some employability and soft skills. However, that's really challenging to measure, and so we did some research with our group last week on what would we see if we, did work more on those things or implemented a plan, and things such as attendance, obviously higher grades, those factors. So the team has given some input, and we're kind of writing those into some flag goals, and they will give feedback so we can get those narrowed down. So we'll be able to spend, first semester next year, the buildings can then take that lag measure and put their lead measures underneath of what it will look like, because it does look different, at every age level of what you would, if you have a graduation, goal, for example, what you're looking for looks different in the elementary than it does the middle school than it does the high school. So, they'll be able to kind of craft their lead measures as well as their strategies in next school year. So that was pretty exciting. I kind of gave you an update on the virtual school. It's something we've kind of talked about a little bit every single year. The requirements for virtual school are no different than brick and mortar as far as accountability goes, attendance, completion of credits. In fact, this is the first year that if we claimed a kid on September 20th and they don't earn credits or they don't have attendance logs for the rest of the school year, then come next September 20th, we have to give the money back. And so, our kids, that are in there right now, they're doing great things, but we only have 4. And so we've really been administratively talking about the virtual school and kind of, as we move forward, what's the best way to use those resources. So we'll be communicating with you next month on some ideas there. So state assessment window has opened, going fairly well. I just kind of put in there the different grade levels that take those, and so that is kind of off and running. Our technology teams will be having meetings next week. The advisement team will be looking at the 5-year plan as well as cybersecurity updates. Our tech curriculum team, we actually completed a project last year that was shared across the state. We just haven't been able to. We're implementing parts of it, but we want a little accountability. For example, in the middle school, this is just one example, Excel. Who's teaching? So the buildings need to decide, is this coming out of math class? Is this coming out of science? Or is this coming out of a technology class? Just here's your list of what you need to accomplish in a grade band. And then your building gets to decide where that falls, because it's in that range. And so we kind of laid that out for K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. And we will be working with our schools next year to kind of look at the outline and by the end of the year designate who took what. It was nice. It was a lot of work for our team, but it was it takes a lot of things we're doing, and just that accountability piece, making sure we're not missing anybody or anything. Our graduation task force team, we met last week as well. We will be bringing a recommendation to you next month. Right now, what we're getting more information on is we require a 0.5 technology credit. And we kind of looked at what classes kids are taking to get that. And I think you'll remember STEM is going to be a required class. So we're getting a little more information on what classes will count in there. We're just wondering, is that something that can kind of be changed out, or does it need to still stay separate? And so we will get that hopefully in the next couple of weeks, so we can have a final proposal to you all in May. You don't have to approve it in June. You can take some time. If you need us to go back and find more information, we can. But we would like it approved before school starts so they can work with next year's 8th graders on their IPS. So driver's ed is finishing this week. They will be driving shortly here. We already have a few that have started driving, but they'll be driving, and we hope to be done driving at the end of June. We currently have 296 students enrolled at Lincoln and Garfield and 90 at Lakeville for our summer learning program. We do anticipate maybe a few more incoming kindergartners after the roundups that are happening. And we'll know more on our summer credit recovery and middle school enrichment next month. And this was something I think worth sharing. When we put out our staff availability, we had over 98 people, because I had probably 5 emails come in after it closed, interested in summer employment. And we have to turn some people away. So that's pretty, that's that's a compliment to our staff and their dedication and really appreciate them stepping forward. So
Is 90 almost all the kids that were in the elementary?
pretty close. Pretty close. That includes the incoming kindergartners, so the numbers are lower in third, fourth, and fifth grade, which is normal even though it's in both sites, that's normal. Those kids stay home a little more, or have some other opportunities, camps. I mean, there are just other things they come go and do, so. But it was a really good turnout, for sure. And then I just put a reminder that expect success, ceremony on the 18th at 1 o'clock. And did I hear is Paige, you'll be there? And is there, if we can have one more that, at least, that would be great. You'll be there.
People said she was planning to be there.
And,
Yeah, I'll be there as well.
awesome. Okay.
Awesome. Any questions for Jacqueline?
I just have a question, talking about the reading. Do we have any way of, so now we're kind of over the COVID hump of it. There was that pocket of students that maybe were in a rough reading situation during that COVID time and are in like upper elementary school, maybe junior high right now. Do we have any way of like capturing, like, how are they doing? Are they lagging still? Are they catching up? I know they were doing some stuff with math, but math I know has some programs in place where they can kind of learn at their own pace and increase from where they're at and get better. But do we have that for reading as well?
Well, part of that is in our new programming as well. Some of the skills that we can work on with kiddos, and we have some interventions that we have specifically put in place, and some more coming in next year on the intervention side. I could get you access to our data dashboard. We're looking really kind of caught back up to where we were in line with state average, even from the ARCS review. But
is the state average even up to where it was before?
Not quite.
Like, not just us, but
Correct.
across, like, are we?
We're
Are our
trending
readers
well,
gonna be
others-
aligned to like graduate at the same
Mhm.
level as what they would have been if they didn't have COVID, I guess?
I would say they're getting there, for sure, and I can share the database with you if you see that too. For sure.
And maybe next month we have a lot of longitudinal data that we had to collect for our accreditation.
We can
So
share
maybe
some of
next
that.
month we could share a little bit about that. You can kind of see the data across years.
Yeah, and when you look at it, you can look across years, but if you also look at a diagonal, then you're following a class. Which I think is helpful, helpful to see for sure.
I just was interested in that, especially those classes that were in that kind of upper elementary during COVID, but had some laggers, like, are we getting them to where they need
Sure.
to be now, or are they falling?
I didn't put it on here, but we have, let's see. Three more elementary intervention teachers that were through the summer and into the fall, sitting through some very intense reading intervention training. We already have 4 teachers doing it right now, and we're sitting through more, so. Some great results from them as well.
Any other questions? for
Oh,
Jacqueline?
I did attach, I'm not gonna go into great detail. It's the work-based learning and IPS report that we have to turn into the state. Just shows our changes from Q1 to Q2. I think it's really cool to watch on the IPS side, our numbers. To see what kids, have, and you can tell, like, with the 8th grade and 9th grade and 10th grade, I mean, you can see where our IPS plan got put into place. Just because you see more consistent numbers, and that's a testament to our, whether it be a specific teacher or a grade level team or whatever, taking on certain roles for that IPS, you can tell this, the kids are all getting that exposure and opportunity, so. So those are attached as well.
Thank you, Jacqueline. So that takes us then to business and discussion items, and we're going to move the childcare the Classic Accelerator Community Grant report. So.
You
Natalie,
You refresh, I did that. Oh. Right.
I brought Alicia, she's our childcare world champion. And so I'm just gonna have her in a minute here, just tell you a little bit about the work that she's been doing at a state level and with the governor's office, in reference to childcare. So, but we'll finish, I'll let you're gonna do a Chris, just go ahead and just have a seat now.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. And thank you for moving this up a little so they don't have to
Thank
sit
you.
there for, I know you guys do a lot of meetings already. And so this, Natalie kind of approached me several months ago and said, hey, there's this great opportunity with some of these grant opportunities to really increase the opportunities for childcare in rural Kansas. And she was very excited about the possibilities, and I'll let her share all the reasons why she thinks we're a great candidate. She said, can we write it? You had to write a letter of interest. They wanted you to, so they could gauge interest to even be eligible. And, you know, if you get to know Natalie, she gets really excited and passionate about these things, and which is awesome for our county. And so she had approached me and said, hey, can we at least get a letter? And I said, we don't have time. She's like, no problem. I got it. I'll do it. And I said, okay. And I think I shared briefly with you guys regarding the letter of interest. And so it was a kind of a mad dash to just get a letter in. It doesn't commit us to anything. It didn't commit to anything that we wrote. It was just get your name in the hat so you can keep going through the process. And so she got that done. And thank you for doing that, Natalie. The next step now would be to, you know, that was 100, maybe 200,000 foot view. And so now it's time to bring it down a little bit closer. None of this is guaranteed. It is all grant funded. And so we know through lots of data that I think they're going to talk about tonight, the need for this, not only in our county, but across our state and our country. And so this is a great opportunity, in my opinion. There's a lot of coordination and communication and collaboration that Natalie and her crew have done, whether it be with the school board, Clay County, the county, and the city. So it truly is a county kind of wide effort now on trying to put together the tools. And so I'll just kind of share a little bit about what the goals and the outcomes would be, and then I'll let Natalie dive into some of the more specific details. And so the purpose and the goal, or the goals of the program, would be essentially increase the number of licensed childcare slots. It's birth to 5. So that could be preschool and childcare, and that was part of our initial plan. Collect your data, increase those spots. It has to be a licensed facility if you're able to do that. It has to show coordination and collaboration between other government entities. Targeted outcomes would be, again, increase the number of childcare facilities providing full-time and year-round programs, increase licensed childcare capacity to serve children birth to 5, improve ratio of supply, licensed childcare facilities serving birth to 5 years, and increased recruitment and retention of childcare professionals. And so we had just a brief meeting with BHS and SBT to just say, hey, this is your world. What could we afford if we got this amount in grant funding? And so BHS ran some numbers based on current projects that they're doing for schools and said, hey, here's a square foot, a budget, a safe budget square foot number to use. What would the design costs look like? What would the timeline be? And it's surprisingly expensive. And I don't have his email right in front of me here, but you're in the mid $300 per square foot range for a facility of this kind. And so depending on what type of construction and location and site layout, they were fairly confident that a plan could be developed within the budget if we were funded for a 5,000 to 6,500 square foot facility that would add 40 to 50 additional birth to 5 childcare and preschool opportunities in our county. The initial plan, and guys, this is still, if we were 200 on the letter, we're still at 100,000 foot view right now. And so a lot of more details would need to be discussed and talked about and thought through if we were to begin getting some of these grant awards. And so the initial thought would be that we would utilize somewhere on the Lincoln Elementary site, mainly because you already have access to so many resources that would be needed for a facility like this. So speech, OT, PT, counselor, you've got a nurse on site already. A lot of these administrative and other incidental staff that you would already have in close proximity and can use, and you wouldn't have to duplicate services or people. And so that's the main reason for utilizing the Lincoln Elementary site would be due to its proximity to all the professionals that would be required to serve children. And as a reminder, as a school district, once a student does qualify for an IEP, we are required to start providing services for those students when they turn 3. And so it's something that we already do. We would be able to just maximize and capitalize on those services. The grant does require a 25% match, 10% can be in kind. And this is, I'm not even going to attempt to share with you the other match funding source. I'm going to let Natalie do that because she has a plan for that. But the school district's in kind would, part of the property could be counted as the in kind. And then anytime we utilize staffing to support students, existing staff, that could be counted as in kind. You have custodial support, all of the things that we already do that would contribute to the new site would also be able to be counted for in kind if we needed it. But again, Natalie, I think, has a really solid plan to help with that, the cash match. And so the initial plan would be, and again, a lot of this would depend on numbers and student needs, county needs, but the idea would be not only maximize additional childcare opportunities in our county, priority 1. A secondary priority would also be to have an added benefit for staff, children. And so staff's children would be eligible for the childcare portion of the facility. And then of course it would still be open to the public. The target audience is going to be your families and students outside of staff that qualify for free and reduced lunch or meet an at-risk criteria. And so, and that's an initiative of the grant
One of
too.
the grants, yes.
And that's what we already focus on in our current preschool programming is we target our most at-risk students, families first. Not only because it's needed, but also because that's who we get funded to serve too. And so, and again, a secondary target population would be children of USD 379 staff. And so what's next? Writing the grant. And that's where Natalie and her crew come in hugely because they are going to be doing a ton of that legwork. We're going to help and assist when and how we can, but it's a beast. I mean, the grant application is, I mean, it's
That's only one,
it's
and we have about
extensive.
4 of them we'll be writing.
And so there's a lot to be done, but part of the school district's responsibilities, if we were funded, we would be the conduit to run and operate the facility, pay the employees, provide benefits. And so a really high level outline of funding would be number 1, the childcare slots, kind of the average rate on some data that Natalie has pulled for us in our area is about $500 a kiddo. We would make sure that we were eligible to accept DCF payments. So families that qualify for those would be able to pay for their slot
Yeah,
through the DCF.
it varies a little bit within that based on whether they're infants and their age groups.
And then, of course, on the preschool side, we are funded 0.5 FTE for any student that qualifies with an IEP, or funded 0.5 FTE for any student that meets an at-risk criteria. And that's for both funding sources are for 3 and 4-year-olds. And then if the student's family qualifies for free lunch status, we get an additional 0.484 weighting. And so some of that's going to vary year to year, depending on how many students qualify. And that's that based on those predictions. And again, 100,000 foot view, we would be able to, in that scenario, and those are low end estimates, we would be able to break even on our staffing costs, but it would cost the school district to operate and maintain the facility. So your utilities, your water, you know, we'd probably have to add some custodial staff. Some of those kinds of things would be additional cost to the school district if we were to get fully funded. And there's a lot of ifs in there. And for example, in part of the grant, it's the first 2 years of operating expenses, so that you have a ton. The grant would help cover our operating costs for the first couple of years to get it up and running, to get a good reputation, to fill your slots, to ensure that, you know, so we would have a couple of years of planning to be able to continue to grow the facility and the operation in the facility. Very quick timeline, and then I'm gonna hand it over to Natalie. June, July of this summer we would be preliminarily likely notified of either award or not. And so if we were awarded, we would then come from 100,000-foot view down to 50 or 20 and start developing some very detailed, comprehensive budgets for not only construction, but also operations. Once we had that information narrowed down, it's more solid information as it related to numbers, we'd come back to you in that August, September timeframe and share what an actual budget would look like. How much would we be responsible for, kind of those kinds of things. Then August and October, we would likely engage in some kind of RFQ process to select an architect to help develop more detailed plans for the facility and the site. And there's a part of the grant covers the architecture.
And we just learned, and it's in my little spiel I was gonna give you. So you had to apply to even be able to be considered for that grant. We were told that we qualify and can apply for that funding. They'd love to help us with our project. So, and I'll tell you more about that and why.
And then we'd get our plans, obviously, and then we would, in that early fall timeline, engage in a process to select a contractor to put that contract and architect firm together as a team. And then they would finish helping us plan and develop a construction timeline. But likely would be a 2024 project if all the stars align. There's still a lot of ifs in here. Number one is if we don't qualify for the necessary funding, it doesn't go any further. But I just wanted to invite Natalie, share with you guys the opportunity that we do have to qualify for some of these grant opportunities and kind of dream big a little bit and see if they come to fruition. So Natalie,
Okay.
all yours.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come and take up some of your time tonight. I had just signed my acceptance letter via email, and a day after I received an email from a board member informing me that the Clay County Child Care Facility would be closing. I was still 3 weeks before I'd even moved to Kansas, the state of Kansas. And they wanted to make sure that that was the first thing I addressed when I took over my position and got here as Economic Development Director. That was July of 2021. I'm still passionate and still working to solve our childcare crisis. We've done a few things small and tried to help our existing providers to save what we could because there were a few that closed and along with the center. I participated in the Citizens Review Committee, which every single session it ended on childcare and was a huge discussion. I participated in your strategic planning during a couple months ago. That was a big deal, showed up on a lot of those papers on the wall that we looked at, that childcare was really important to the community. So we know it's a big deal. And Grow Clay County, we've been trying to figure out how we could get a facility. And before I found out about the accelerator grant, there was a CBDG funding. And then again, this funding for $45,000 to get your plan, to help with your plans. Well, $645,000 would not build a significant facility, maybe another in-home facility or group home that might work there, but we needed more than that. And I don't know if you guys this data was included in your packet. Did you include this data? Was it data? Okay. So we looked at some real-time data from Child Care Aware, and it still showed Clay County Child Care is operating, which it is not, and included those 36 spots that they had. So if you look at that, the potential number of childcare spots needed in our community is 152. And only 7% or 7 out of the 27 in-home providers that are left take DCF. That leaves a workforce demographic, either out of the workforce or kids being cared for, who knows by who and how long and whether they're alone or what's going on with them. And presents a problem. Childcare is one of the biggest barriers, that and housing, to economic development and growth in our community. And it's not just us, it's statewide and it's nationwide. But I can tell you those communities that are progressive and work together and collaborate and get on it, they're going to find success. Lindsberg is one of those. If you've ever heard about Lindsberg's childcare facility, they just built a $2 million facility, raised some of the funds, grants for some of the funds, things like that. The only thing that we were finding is, number one, we didn't have enough funding, but the accelerator grant is $20,000 for facilities or $20 million for facilities and $20 million for operations. This is the largest amount of money the state has ever put out there for childcare facilities to solve this problem. However, the projects needed to be sustainable. And as we saw, Clay County Childcare, even as a nonprofit and running like they did, for some reason, it was hard for them to be sustainable. And through some of the work that our World Champion has done in other communities, the only way to really make it sustainable is to partner with a school district or a government entity to make this happen. So one of the benefits would attract and retain qualified staff, not only for the school, but for other employers in our area. It would fill a need in the community by attracting families, which in turn helps the school to have more students. Schools are intended for education, so a school-owned daycare facility can have a focus to help young children's growth and development, identifying those at-risk kids a little bit sooner, obviously saves our community a lot of money. And then high school students can receive valuable experience through working at a childcare facility if you are to offer your CDA to some of those youngs and kind of get a real life childcare center experience. So that's one of the ways. So we were
You guys know
one.
what the CDA is? It's a childcare licensure. And so it's actually a license or a credit that our high school students, if we went through some processes through our teaching pathway, that they could go to the center and work and earn their hours and earn a credential before they graduate that would allow them, when they go to college, to earn more money while going to school and working.
Very similar to associate in childcare is kind of what it equates to, the amount of education and credits that you kind of obtain. So we were one of 12 rural champions. There were 52 applications from across the state. We were one of 12, 3 of which focus on childcare. I just really quick want Alicia to tell you, sorry, I didn't realize she was there. Just a few minutes, some of the things that we've been working on to solve this, because we kind of gave up on the center thing. 600,000 until this accelerator grant came through. We just figured it wasn't in the stars for our community.
So I'm Alicia Paul. As Natalie said, I was one of the 12 rural champions that was selected by the Office of Rural Prosperity and the governor to identify issues in rural communities and how to solve them. We chose childcare along with 3 of the other rural champions. We're working to figure out how to solve these issues. 2 of the other champions are also working with their school districts in a very similar plan to what we're doing right now. Last week, I was able to have the opportunity to go to Topeka and sit down with Lieutenant Governor Toland. It was supposed to be a 45-minute meeting and it turned into 2 hours because he is very passionate about helping us solve this issue. He's already set up another meeting for July for us to have another several hours to sit down and discuss exactly what he can do at the state level to help us solve these issues. The Rural Champion program is something that is very beneficial when we're applying for these grants because they are connecting us with places like Child Care Aware and so many other groups to help find this funding to get this off the ground. Some of the other things that we've done is we have established a child care task force of myself and 6 other individuals. And through that, we've been able to send out surveys, 3 of them, 1 to parents, 1 to providers, and 1 to businesses. And we've gotten a really good response in a short amount of time from those surveys showing that businesses are very interested in how they can possibly partner with a child care facility moving forward so that they can maybe help fund it in the future and then offer those childcare slots as an incentive for potential employees. And then, what else? Am I forgetting things?
No, we've been considering a substitute pool.
Yes, and then we have an idea of a substitute pool. And I've worked with the health department, with the IRIS program to try and implement that, because there's just a lot of employees in our county that end up missing work because their daycares close. So there's an idea that we're trying to formulate on how we can get a substitute pool open so where we can have childcare for those kiddos that are currently in daycares, but don't have anywhere to go when that daycare closes.
So with that, when I saw the accelerator grant, I got really excited and we were just gonna submit a letter for our substitute pool for a little bit of funding to maybe have a little dashboard for people. And then I talked with Brett and I said, hey, can we consider this? This is now a game changer for us. We can actually do what we want to do and what we need. So I don't know, was the budget included, that preliminary budget or no? Yeah. So as you know, we met with the architects and a contractor to kind of fill out whether or not I had the right numbers. We had a preliminary budget. And so we came up with about $2.2 million for the facility to include playground, furnishings, toys, whatever was needed to furnish what do we figure, 5,000 to 6,500 square foot facility would be based on the funding that we receive. Because we're a rural champion community, it elevates our application status. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it definitely elevates it because they want to provide the resources and the funding for these childcares to solve their problems, or these communities to solve their problems. So with that, on Monday night, I approached the city and asked them about the CBDG funding because I wasn't going to do anything. And it's a tight time frame. The CBDG and the tax credit grant are due April 30th and May 1st, and the accelerator grant is due the May 15th. So it's a tight deadline, but we've done it before. We can do it. So we would get a CBDG, ask for 600,000 through the CBDG funding, 1.8 million or 1.85 million through the accelerator grant. We would ask for 200,000 towards tax credits. And again, the state has set aside $1 million in tax credits just for childcare projects. And they were presented on a webinar specifically for champions, childcare champions, for us to apply for these tax credits. So again, providing us with all the resources. And then, like I said, we were just notified that we were able to apply for the architectural plans of grant of $45,000. And we're excited and felt our project would qualify for the grant. Grove Lake County is going to do a lot of the work, possibly pay some funding to North Central Regional Planning because there's 3 grants and we want them to help us with CBDG just because of time constraints. We might possibly give a donation, and then the state is considering giving rural champions anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 towards their project. So there's another $25,000. So again, is it guaranteed? No. Is there anything out of your pocket? Like I told the city, they're going to have the publishing costs for the hearing for them to sponsor the CBDG. That would be the cost. It would be my time and any money that Grove Lake County puts towards it. But at this time, there's no commitment from you. But the only way that I can see something to become sustainable like this is to partner with our school district. I just don't see, again, to provide a center and the number of spots and to have the intervention and the education and learning that you guys provide. So with that, I guess I'm seeking permission to apply for these grants on your behalf. See what we get, see if we don't, or if not, this will probably be the end of the road for me. Like I said, it's been almost 2 years I've worked on this. And once our Rural Champions done, our office will try to do all we can to fill the childcare. We do have rumor that 2 in-home childcares will be closing soon. So that 27 number will go down to 25. One is retirement and one just wants to do something else with her life. So again, any questions for me?
Are we doing anything in any of the other portions of the county with these grants? Because it was like a countywide survey. Will there be will it go to any of the other communities within the county or just the one facility?
Right now it'd be the one facility because a city has to sponsor the CBDG funding and they have to, you can only apply for the CBDG funding through a city or a tribal organization. And so the city of Clay Center has opted to help us out with that. and sponsor us to get that applied for. I guess if you wanted to split it up, you could split it up into different areas, but then you're limited to what you can build with the cost of construction. And I don't know what you would get, or if you get as many spots, by divvying it up. So.
And part of what the Rural Champion program is allowing us to do is all of the work that I'm doing throughout this grant period for the Rural Champion side. We're building a guidebook to where if we do find a solution to these problems, it can be implemented in other communities.
This is a huge need in our community and one of the most vital pieces that limits growth within a community. If you don't have ability for working aged people to work, it will absolutely limit the growth of your community and therefore the growth of our school district. I don't know how we can't agree to write the grant to try to advocate for a huge thing that I believe strongly in, which is early intervention for our students. So it's kind of a win-win for the community and for the students to get early intervention.
Talk about the survey, I'm sorry.
Just to reiterate what you had said, between the citizen review committee, it seemed like every direction we went with those meetings, it ended with we need more daycare. And then for the strategic planning, it was very clear that was a significant issue in our community.
But we're looking at also at other communities because there were multiple communities involved in the survey from here and those projects as well. That's why I just wondered if, because like one of the questions is, can two childcare centers apply for the grant as one? And it explains about the intent and depends on you define the community and who'd be working together and things like that. And especially like with another school in the district that would be available to be part of USD 379 as well. Would that be a possibility as well? Wouldn't have to be a big facility, could be something small, could be partnered with a childcare center that we have already that one of them is educated to be able to have a higher level childcare facility than what she has right now. She just doesn't have space or, employees and could we partner with something like that just to expand something that's already there? That's why I'm asking that question. Yeah.
Is there any way we could have better survey instead of 19 people? Not that that's your fault, but we sent it out, but there's 19 people that responded to it, so out of 8,000 people, it'd be kind of better.
You got any more since we shared it on
It'd
Facebook?
be nice to get more than 19 or 18.
Yeah, since we shared it on Facebook at the end of last week, that it went from 19 to 29 as of this afternoon, and we're going to keep sharing it and keep trying to get more people to fill out the survey.
And this is my second survey. When I first started this process, I sent out a survey to daycare providers and to parents to inquire about some of that information. So this is not, but after talking with Austin, he felt that maybe we didn't have a childcare shortage, but we come to find out that there's some factors beyond our control. Some parents don't want to go to certain providers and some providers don't want to take certain kids. And some parents don't, or some providers don't take DCF. So that leaves them out where they can't afford full price. So there's a lot of dynamics to this. So, and I was telling Brett, because one of his concerns is, well, will we be able to fill it right away? You might not be at full capacity, but I can't attract people to this county if I don't have childcare and housing. There's a family, we even took them for a tour on the school that wants to move here and they want to open a business, they want to bring their business here and there's nowhere for them to live. Now, if that was the same, if they had a child that needed childcare, that would be another problem as well. I know this is a great community. I know I can attract people here. I came from, I know I said South Dakota, but I moved from Las Vegas, Nevada for a better place to raise my children and we landed in North Dakota. Best decision I've ever made was to go rural. My kids are more well-rounded, better educated, healthier, mentally healthier, had more opportunities than they would have ever had at a school in Vegas. And after COVID, that has just been taken through the roof. People want out and a lot of people can work from anywhere. Another program that we're considering that we've looked into that Lincoln County is doing, I just want to pull a plug. I know this is not really super related to childcare. They're doing Make My Move. They have had 2 families with 7 kids that have moved from varying states with an incentive to move to their community, Lincoln County. We got Lincoln County beat. I'm sorry. I look at what I'm not trying to be
You
mean.
don't have a beat if you don't have a place for them to live.
That's true. And that's their problem as well. That's their problem
I mean,
as
that's
well. I mean, for
not-
quality of life. I mean, they're still dealing with housing and childcare.
I can almost tell you housing's a worse problem than childcare,
And we're working on that.
because there's not a single house. I mean, maybe here in town there might be, but there's nothing for sale or rent in the south part of the county.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, that's probably worse than childcare right now.
Well, I like I said, I'm
Because
working on that.
you can't attract people to have kids to go to a childcare if you don't have a place for them to live.
True.
So.
And there's tons of money coming down the pipe for housing as well. And we've worked on that. We applied for a couple of different grants for that we were waiting on to hear to help up that. And
One question I did have was kind of addresses Debbie's question though. If the person did live outside of our county, but they worked inside the county, would they still be, there's no requirement for where
We'd be
that
able to
person?
set our own rules.
Yeah,
for
you-
it.
Okay, that's a
As long as-
different,
yeah.
different day for that conversation, but, I was just thinking about that person could still work in Clay Center if it, they live in Green or wherever they could.
Well, and the CBDG funding requires that 51 of your spots target low to middle income individuals. So again, your most at risk people, and then the other 49% could be your there wouldn't be any income requirements, and that's self-certifying when they apply.
If this would come to fruition, would it give us the opportunity to take advantage of the possible state funding for preschool expansion, be able to open up some preschool spots or some additional rooms?
For sure, yeah. One hope would be that, and this again, way high view, but would be to do away with the East Mobile unit over there. Just because of for safety issues. So you would be adding 1 preschool room and 2 childcare rooms. Because we would move 1 existing preschool that is housed in there to that room. So yeah, it'd be 12 to 15 additional preschool spots.
One question I have is on, one of the things that was attached in our minutes was, the letter of interest from February 20th, about a 15,000 square foot facility.
That was our million-foot view. We didn't have anything. Like I said, he contacted me the day before it was due.
Yeah.
And it was actually a holiday and I was supposed to have the day off and I came in and I put that together. So again, it was a letter of interest. It didn't have to, you weren't committed because of your letter of interest. They just wanted to see how many people might apply or need funding was what they were filling out for. So. And when we got down to the numbers, we found out we couldn't build that big a facility anyway with even the funding that's available with all the different blended funding. So.
I'd just like to add that I appreciate your passion, both of you and for your team. It was obvious to me sitting through the strategic planning event, the community event, that this is a need for our community. And I'm a lifelong Clay Center resident and I plan to be here, so I'd like to see us continue to grow. And this is one of those main areas that we need to work on for our entire county. And I mean, I'm in favor of this 100%, so that we proceed with at least allowing you to write the grant on our behalf to see where we go, because if we don't do that, we don't know anything. So
We don't try. We'll never
Yeah.
know.
So, for those reasons, I like to move to give final approval to authorize Grove Clay County to write and submit a child care accelerated grant on behalf of USD 379. Second. Motion is second. Do you have any questions? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0.
I have one other request. I don't know if you guys need this, but I would also be selling the tax credits on your behalf. I don't know if that's okay to fund this. If you guys need permission for that, because that's part of the funding, that's $200,000. And then the CBDG grant as well. I mean, the city will be
have
hosting that.
to know whether we have qualified before that next step takes place.
Explain what do you mean qualified?
Do we have
We've been
to
awarded
be
the grant.
awarded the grant before we would
These
have
are
the
two
tax
different
credit?
things, two different things.
Oh, there's two
We're
separate.
we're
Okay.
talking four different grant applications here that we're combining to do this.
So could you back up then and
Sure.
just kind of explain what you just
Okay,
stated?
sorry, yes,
Okay.
I talk way too fast. So I didn't know, so again, I'm applying for the CBDG funding on behalf of the city for USD 379 Early Learning Center. So I feel that I'm okay there, but the tax credits I'll sell on behalf of USD 379's project. Grove Lake County will do the selling and apply for the grant. And again, we
So
might.
tell us a little bit more about what that looks like.
So the tax credits are a 70% income tax credit for anyone who makes a donation towards this childcare facility. And the state will give you up to $200,000 specifically for childcare facilities projects. So, but we would have to, even before I wrote the grant, I would have to go out and get commitment letters from several people.
So you're just using our 501c to facilitate that?
Actually, the community foundation, I'm using theirs. Grove Lake
Okay.
County wasn't able to get their taxes done in time to apply because we've only been in business. So the community foundation, again, another partner in this that wants to see this happen, will apply for the community tax credits for the USD 379 Early Learning Center is what I'm kind of naming the project right now.
So it's this one in their packet, correct, Natalie?
Yeah, so if you look under funding sources, yeah, oh yeah, that one right there. So in rural communities, you get a 70% tax credit. So it helps to buy down someone's income tax credit. So even if they bought $20,000 worth of credit and only had a $15,000 liability, they would get a refund of $5,000 from the state and zero liability for whatever taxes they had in that case. I know I took me a while to figure it out. But we met with my economic development committee and they felt that we could sell the 200,000 easily and might give us an avenue for other donations or other opportunity, people might want to donate more than just
So
that.
you would like approval for the Kansas Community Service Tax Credit Program?
Just so that you guys are aware that all of these will be part of this, not just because we can't do it with just the accelerator and we can't do it with just the CBDG. It's going to take all of these.
Yes, is there other grants you need us to approve, or is it just that additional one?
I think just that additional one will be, just so that you know, again, it won't be in your name, it'll be CCIF, but I'll be selling them on behalf of the early learning to fund the Early Learning Center, USD 379. I just want to make sure if you need that in your motion.
It doesn't really impact us other than
No.
it would be a donation.
Back to.
Once you collect it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody understands all the moving parts because there's tons of them. And so,
Yeah.
and my board has
This isn't
approved
because it's
all of
going
this.
through the foundation. I was just,
Do you think we're solid with what we've?
Yeah, I guess I'm thinking that if it's going through this foundation, all you're ending up doing, I mean, you're gonna accept donations as you do every month anyway, so.
Yeah, just making sure that I'm clear, because when I write that, I have to know that I've got everybody's stamp of approval, so. Okay.
good luck.
And is there, do you think it would help on your side of writing it if you had I mean, because it'd be easy. I mean,
I'll
make a
probably wait
motion
and
to-
do that. I'll probably need a letter of support showing that from you guys when I submit the grant on all of them and that you support us applying for the tax credits, writing the grant, how much that's needed. So, and I'll be working on that
And
again.
make a motion, put a motion to,
How would you like that to be, but so that we give her permission on our behalf to write grants for this project?
well, we've already taken care of that one. Took care of the grant
This
one,
is
so
the
it would
tax
just be motion to allow,
Natalie to facilitate the Kansas.
Natalie
Community
to-
Service Tax
But
Credit.
we're not getting anything out of that until
they'll
they
donate.
collect the donations,
Right.
and then they're gonna have to turn around and donate it to us, and that's when we can accept it.
Right. Okay,
So it's not really anything we need to
6 to
do
1,
on our part.
yeah,
I mean, right, I mean, I don't think there is, but
okay.
I mean.
I
If
just-
nobody donates anything or nobody buys a tax credit, you're not gonna get nothing out of it, so.
Well, and I might not even get the grant for the tax
The
credits.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, all of this is a big, but that I can say, I have done everything in my power, applied for every funding source as an economic development organization to solve the childcare crisis.
I think you have the support of the board to move forward with whatever grants you
Okay.
need to write
Take a vote of 7.
to get the project, I mean, and then we'll see where we're at once
Sure.
all that shakes out.
Sure. Okay,
And then
I just,
one question. So you said that you would probably ask for a letter
Of sport.
of support
Mhm.
before you submit the grant,
yes,
which you said is May 15th.
there's April 30th, May 1st and.
Well, we
May
don't have
15th.
another board meeting until
Okay,
May the 8th. So
Letter from
Just from Brett. I don't think
Wanna
it
make
needs,
sure
I
that
just need that someone who represents the school district to
Right.
say, hey,
Okay, very good.
we know this is what we plan on, we're in support of this project.
We don't want to be.
I don't want to hold you up.
No, and thank you for that. And I apologize for, the city was taken aback by the tight time frame, and I apologize, but this is how things go. They put it out there pretty quick
And you
and
have to snatch it when the opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that weeds everybody out that doesn't.
That's right.
yes, yes. So,
Okay, well, thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I get that computer off.
Okay, so we'll go back then to capital outlay budget planning, correct? Okay. So, item B, capital outlay budget planning, the information that we discussed, on our facility tour, and we've been discussing, is included there. So what questions do you guys have?
We go down to 22-23 budget and what's been done, what hasn't been done, where we at on,
Yeah, you bet.
since we're getting close to the end of that time frame. Just to see, I mean, see where we're at.
Yeah, on the, so we'll start from the top to the bottom, the high school, we put that in with this bid.
Okay, that 20,000's in this flooring part.
It is, yeah,
Okay,
we just get that purchasing power. Electronic door readers, they're probably, does Craig leave? Yeah,
Nope, still here.
Oh, where are they at?
They haven't been back the last 2 weeks, so I'm looking for them anytime to finish up Garfield and then go to it. So there's not too many.
So is Garfield the first school they've done?
No, they did
The stack?
high school. This was first the high school, then they went to the middle school and district gym.
Okay, so this 38,000 that's in here has been done.
It's already encumbered.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
yeah, it's encumbered. And the new site, it's all encumbered and in the system. We added the boiler for the middle school, and that's a high level budget number just to make sure we're good. I hope to be significantly lower than that, but I wanted to, budget higher, not knowing where we were. Electronic door readers for middle school, they're both in there, encumbered. Football field lighting is scheduled for this summer at Wakefield, not encumbered. I don't believe, not encumbered yet, no, but it's on their list. And when they have a lift in our district, they're gonna hit all of our required sites that need a lift to access.
Are we gonna try and do that scoreboard at the same time when we have a look down there?
That's a separate deal. The scoreboard company does that, yeah. But we do have a solid number from Nevco for the scoreboard at Wakefield. And have made some arrangements, we can't expend it till July, but they've said basically, if, we have a signed commitment from me saying we're good for it, then they'll get it ordered, get it coming and make sure it's here and ready for them to put in July.
July.
And so remind me, Andrea, on that tomorrow too, but I think we're good, but I'm gonna double check. Gym sound at Garfield's done, door readers at Garfield are done.
And they are very thankful for their gym sound, and it is a much big improvement. I just want to pass that along. It is a extreme improvement. In my child was like, we can actually hear her in PE, and so just wanted to pass that along. It was money well spent for that building.
All of Lincoln's are done. Stacks done, that's electronic door readers, technology, that's done.
The new
RT,
flooring of the 4965 is not in the RFPs complete.
they did that
That
last
was
July.
done. Okay,
Mhm.
The expedition.
Technology's done. District-wide items, that's about a $19,000 payment a month, so how many ever months are left of the 2235? Preventative maintenance is done. Annual gym floor refinishing, did we pay that last July? Or is that still yet to pay in June, do you remember? It depends on what year we pay it out of, but either way, it's an annual expense for all of our gym floors that come in and do. Grounds is done, transportations is done. So
So the bus radios,
they're done.
and then we're doing another 13,000 next year on bus radios?
Yeah, half and half.
Okay.
Well, the 100,000 on the electronic door access, will I get every door that's left? or
Yes. Yeah.
For next year?
Yeah.
Or in the next budget?
He did a site walkthrough. We have building maps and I asked him for a very, very safe number to get the rest of my doors done. And so we're waiting on a final estimate. So it should be better than that. But, you know, we know our average door per cost. The variation is how much wire they gotta run to get back to the whatever you call it, where it runs out of. So, but that should be a safe number. But yes, that would get every exterior door online.
Good. Would that be done by August or not?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That's probably gonna be
That's
something,
for
maybe,
next year.
maybe a
That's
year.
really next.
That's next
But they
year.
could start in July.
The hope was.
But it sounds like they are Houdini and appear and reappear.
Maybe they're waiting.
We're hoping they have what was supposed to be done in 22, 23 done by August.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a good, if they haven't showed up for 2 weeks, you know, so it'd be good to maybe get that part.
It wouldn't take much to get Garfield. There wasn't that many doors.
I know they've had a lot of staff turnover this last year, and with the specialty it is, they're very selective on who they hire, is what the company has said. They don't.
And they put them through an extensive background.
They don't
check
let anything.
process. Yeah. Because they're in school, so.
That's good.
Yeah. But no, the hope was when we had our initial meeting with them was that, if you guys approve this tonight, that he would know that work, and we continue to try to be first on the list. So they wouldn't leave and then come back later, that they would just keep knocking them out.
Okay, so on this RFP for flooring, you got 20,000 at the high school, so where's the rest? What else we do?
So that would,
We adding the 70,000 and 23, 24 on there,
correct, those two combined,
so that's 90. So we doing any other flooring,
all of it,
all of it? So all of it's gonna get done
all of it,
between now and next June.
this summer.
The
By the
summer.
end of
Okay,
July.
okay, okay.
But so we had everything that you guys saw in the walkthroughs for flooring, and then the middle school and one other area we didn't have budgeted for, so we asked for those as alternates. In the event we had enough budget built in to get them done, and based on the base bid, all the floors that we saw came in under what we had budgeted. We always budget high, and we were able to fit all the alternates in also. If you guys approve them tonight, and then that would take us, there would only be a handful of rooms left in the whole district that we would need to get done, but it would knock out everything. And would you guys like me to kind of run through the proposal for 23, 24?
Sure.
Yep. One roof on the hit list at the high school. And I don't have my electronic one pulled
It's
up.
back by the shop. We talked about it on the tour.
Auditorium.
Oh, the auditorium.
It's
Okay.
yeah,
shop's
it's
the
an
next year.
auditorium
Okay.
roof that's causing us a lot of problems and issues, and it's just
Right, with the curtain, yeah.
at the end of its life. And so, and we've been planning for that roof for the last, I think, 4 years. We've had it on our list, and so it's time to get it done. The tennis court resurface, we would put that out to bid. It is out to bid. It's on our website. It's published. We sent it to a few different companies to consider that. Track equipment, that's the track equipment up at the high school to replace the equipment that was bought in 1996, I believe. So it's about how many ever years old that is, 30-some years old. And our track coaches and administration of the high school got estimates from 3 different companies based on the equipment, and we kind of averaged those out. All of these companies do participate in a cooperative purchasing group. And so, you know, if you guys approve this plan, that's likely the direction we would go, knowing that we got quotes from 3 other companies. And Ritchie is the company that the group would like to use and the best price. The auditorium painting and lighting package, I think I shared.
What are we painting? I thought we were buying curtains and lights.
curtains and lights, I think they'll touch up. They'll
On the stage.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, which isn't a huge expense, but, and again, this is a high level budget that the group got, I think, budgets from, or estimates from 3 different companies for all of these packages, but we would have to bid this one out. It's pretty specific and detailed, and so we'll need some help and support from somebody. We'll have to find an expert that helps us write a good scope to where it's apples to apples, that we can make sure we know what we're getting in the auditorium. And again, that's replacing the lighting, updating the lighting to LED and a sound, some of the sound stuff. And then, of course, the curtains that have a stain. We did get a donation, I think, for $9,000 that should help take that number down a little bit. The middle school, you know, because of the flood and I mean, they pretty much got a refresh last year and insurance paid for it. So they're sitting fairly good right now. Scoreboard at the Wakefield football field, flooring, Wakefield. Their track department requested some track blocks and a block cart. So we got that in there. Garfield floorings in there, Lincoln floorings in there, same number for technology. And then the district-wide items, continuing adding electronic door access that would allow us to have all of our exterior doors alarmed and monitored with electronic access moving forward. So I think I did share with you, you guys had some good questions on the basketball goal, inspections and maintenance along with the bleachers. So the high school had a group come out and do an assessment of our district. And I apologize, totally my fault. I was under the impression that that was just inspections, but it's what they did. They came out and said, hey, this is your inspection and this is everything we need to fix with your stuff. And so is what we're doing now. Is it out to bid yet, or are we?
It's not yet, it's not posted.
So we're gonna put that out to bid and have, and say, hey, we want our annual maintenance complete and any repairs that we need for our basketball goals and our bleachers, and see what we get back from that bid process. And then we can decide what we want to do or not do with that. The annual gym floor finishing we have. What's their name? Creative Flooring comes in and does sands our floors down, redoes them every summer. That deck mower rotation, we have those two main mowers on a 3-year rotation.
So where are we, for this ADA compliant on our sidewalks?
Oh, did I skip that?
Where are we
So
talking?
next,
It's the next item.
Ah, there we go, yeah. So if you walk any of our district sites, you'll see a lot of our sidewalks and curbing have
Over an inch.
deteriorated,
Elevation.
with
yeah, and and so, you know, obviously cutting concrete out and pouring new is really expensive. And so this is the company, they have a cutting machine that comes in and will cut to ADA grade all the tripping hazards in our district. I think I had a thing in your packet about, it had all the pictures, had every trip hazard noted, it had the pictures taken, but anyhow, they would come in and make sure that all of our facilities across the district no longer had those trip hazards. It's our #1 work comp claim in the district is trip hazards within our entries and exits and sidewalks. It also causes significant issues for snow removal for obvious reasons when you're trying to run as fast as you can down a sidewalk or a parking lot and you hit one of them 1/2-inch.
It's not so much it's the sudden stop.
But
stop the bump, it's stop.
But anyhow, this would ensure, again, they have a sole, there's a sole proprietor on cutting. Most companies that do this grind, they don't guarantee ADA compliance. And so they have a contract with Greenbush, so they bid this out nationally with Greenbush. And this would accomplish all of that work across our entire district to make sure that we're.
Or if that Kansas quarry and cutting in Salina could do something like that. Just curious. I mean, they don't do anything like that.
I don't know.
Then I could call. I mean, just ask, hey, this is what we're looking at. You guys just to see. Not saying that they do or don't. I know they do a lot of concrete cutting. I mean, they got chainsaws that cut concrete walls. I'm sure they got some kind of grinder or something.
What does the process for that look like? Like, are we going to have to?
You did do it.
Yeah.
Do it this summer. There is.
It'll be,
Okay.
it'll be.
252 different locations.
Locations.
That's insane.
But you think about all the sidewalks.
Sure.
I mean, and if you had a, that much of a gap on every crack in the sidewalk, or every 10 feet in the sidewalk, 252 locations, that's.
It'd be a terrible job to do it. That wouldn't be a fun job to do.
Yeah, but you know, they might have a big grinder, you know, I don't know, you know. Some of them guys, of course, in Manhattan, they don't cut curbs out anymore. They have a deal that cuts the curb like that for a driveway. They don't tear, they used to tear it all out and fill it in with new concrete. Now they don't do that. They have a machine that comes in and cuts the curb. Pull the curb out and you're done. And then you pour your new concrete where they cut the curb. They don't let them tear the curb out because it affects the street.
And I did have 55 in here again to be super comfortable after getting various estimates, and I think they actually came in at 48. So again, when we can, we try to shoot higher than we think so that we're kind of like this. Bus radios. And then Mike is gonna look at it. Again, I don't understand it all, but he would like another transit van, but it has something to do with capacity and sizes and waiting on a company that can do a
He
conversion.
explained it when we were on our tour.
Because nobody's making
Certain
it transit.
bands
that
don't
meets our-
qualify for
Can't do
school
12.
districts. Can't do 12.
That's what it was.
But he was on it. He was figuring out a way.
Have we ever thought about? buying out our own?
Not since I've been here.
I didn't know.
100 acres.
If we
What we
want
maintain.
to hire.
It'll be less now. We won't have a brew or the track, but no, but not since I've been here, someone who's been around longer.
Not in all the years I've been on, the years I've been on. Gosh, it's
I was
great.
curious. We've always had grounds people. Of course. We have one or two people that do everything now. I mean, it used to be,
That's kind of my.
some of the custodians used to mow no, but I'm saying some of the custodians used to
Mow
mow.
their own.
Like Wakefield, the custodian did all the outside mowing. Now they don't do that. Jason did it down there. I mean, used to have a lawnmower, weed eaters and everything there at the building and they just.
I was just thinking, not that Jason can't mow, but maybe he could be utilized in a different way.
Yeah, but you know, in the summertime, you hire a couple of people to.
Yeah, additional.
You know, for the work and effort that Jason does, I mean, we get our money's worth. That guy works his tail off and he does a heck of a job. Takes a lot of care and appreciation for the work that he does and man, he's all in and he wants our facilities to look nice. He does a good job.
I think for me, it's the difference between a district employee versus hiring it out. And so you have the management of that process too. So that might be more, issues potentially, but good question. Super valuable.
You just made me think of something too, that lighting on that corner in Wakefield that we talked about. Did that need to go for this or is that?
Security lighting.
Yeah, generally on the capital outlay plan, we don't use anything that's under $5,000. We don't plan for. We have annual budgets within the maintenance budget that we have contingencies built in for incidentals. And so we have traditionally utilized the capital outlay plan for anything 5,000 and above. If that makes sense.
Do we think that process is gonna come through that budget? Because I do think he was really adamant about.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't gotten numbers or gotten that far, but I mean, I'm not a lighting guy, but it's not gonna be $5,000, so, yeah.
Okay, any other questions about the capital outlay budget? Okay, No further questions. I move to give final approval for district administration to move forward with the RFP process of the 24 capital projects, fiscal year 24 capital projects that exceed the bid law limits of $20,000 and proceed with all other fiscal year 24 capital projects.
Second.
The motion and second, any questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Okay. And the boiler, next item, which.
Other than I think everyone's well aware, we talked about it last month, that one of the boilers at the middle school did fail and looked at a lot of different options. You know, do you do a traditional equipment and labor bid? Do you use a cooperative purchasing as we've done in the past on some different projects? And we determined, you know, our system is simple enough that we can take a lot of margin out if we buy the equipment direct and we don't have somebody else mark it up. And so this is the avenue that we chose to do, was to submit a RFP. We did it a few weeks ago, been public on our website, for the specs of boilers that we would need. And once we, or if you choose to award those bids, then we would have the official cut sheets on the equipment, and then we would follow that up with a RFP for installation. And so we couldn't do labor, for instance, a bid for labor at the same time, because we didn't have the cut sheets for the equipment that they would be installing. But if you guys approve the something I should know about?
No.
There you go.
That's always on there.
Yeah, you can search it, yeah. That's the link to where all of our bid documents are housed on our website. But anyhow, so once we have our cut sheets, then we would turn around an RFP for installation of the boilers. And again,
In your process of investigating this, you found that they were marking up the equipment, and so this allows us to get an additional discount, is what I'm hearing you say.
correct, yeah.
That's the only way you make money, is mark up equipment. You think about that. You get-
Need to
you
hit a
don't make
sore
no
spot,
money on
Jeff,
labor.
but-
You don't make any money on labor.
Okay,
I mean, I'm just saying, that's the only way a company can make any money, is by marking up the equipment.
So we did some research with, and so the comparisons, and we did have a third bid come in, but they didn't get it turned in before the bid deadline. It was higher anyways, but we did have a third company submit one that they didn't turn it in on time, so we told them we couldn't accept it because we had already opened the other bids. So AES has a 20-to-1 turn down ratio. The Blackmore has a 15-to-1 turn down ratio, so that was a little bit better. Blackmore does have a better lead time on pumps, 2 to 3 weeks. AES is 16 weeks, but still puts us well within a window of hitting cooling season.
That was only part of their bid, was 16.
Yeah, the pumps.
The pumps, because the
Yeah.
boilers were 4 to 6
Yeah.
compared to the other.
The AES boiler heat exchanger is 316 stainless steel, the Blackmore's 439. Both appear to have similar warranties. Both boilers are similar in physical size. The AES pumps come with a lifetime warranty on alignment and coupling. That's something that other companies don't offer. And there was something else. That was it, but that's kind of the research we would recommend going with AES and.
Any expectation on labor? Any idea?
Ballpark. Yeah, estimate.
How much?
Well, we're gonna go to a bid process, so I'd hate to
well,
throw
you know,
a number.
I'm just curious.
Half of that boiler price.
Half of it? Okay.
Ballpark, yeah,
Well, I mean,
just
we
right
just-
on.
Without
Approved.
giving a number.
I'm just,
Ish.
I'm just thinking, sorry.
I won't
just
tell you my
approved
bid.
the
I won't
budget.
tell you my bid.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but I would say half, no, I would say half of what those boilers cost.
Well, we just
Would probably-
approved for that.
We're plenty above. Yeah.
Okay, we've got room. Okay, that's what I want to make
You
sure.
just gotta understand the labor part will probably be a little bit more since they're not buying the equipment.
Right.
Yeah,
But yeah,
realistic.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Sure.
I move to get final approval to accept the equipment bid from Associated Equipment Sales out of Lenexa, Kansas, in the amount of $96,635 and proceed with the RFP process for the installation of the equipment.
Motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carries.
So one other thing on that, Brett, when you put that labor bid out, you know, there's a lot of things in there. They said were not included. I mean, do you give them this? You'll give them this without the dollar amount?
Yep.
And then they know what's coming. Good.
Oh, so on flooring, as we've said in capital outlay, we did combine this fiscal year with next, just to get it done all at one time while they were mobilized and on site, specifically at the high school. And again, we had kind of our starting point to this process is we secure a safe budget number from the flooring company. Hey, what's a safe budget number for LVT? What's a safe budget number per square foot per carpet? And that's kind of our starting point of where we set a budget. And we always, when we're budgeting, we always make sure that we're higher to ensure that we don't have that we don't come under. And so we utilize that as a starting point for a budget within the plan. And then we put it out to been on our website, sent it to 3 qualified flooring companies, kind of the bigger groups. I mean, it's a big job. Like some of our local smaller companies said, it's too big for us. We can't do it. And even a larger company out of Manhattan said it's just out of their scope. It's too big of a job. And so feel like we got a really good price when you compare it to what we had budgeted. And again, we had 3, 4, 5 rooms that we didn't have in the plan, or we're a little further out in the plan. I think maybe next year or the year after. 24, 25. And so we asked for those as alternates, separate from the base. So in case we came in under budget, we could move over as many as we could fit in. And I think with getting all of the alternates done, I think we were within $3,000 of our budget. So it would be our recommendation while they were here to knock all of those floors out and be done.
I like their comment about epoxy. We gave a sample to Craig what we use, and it's better than epoxy.
Do you agree?
You wanna see it?
We're not gonna do it, so. I mean, as far as that goes.
It was mainly the Wakefield and that rough area.
And then, right.
And we certainly should look at it if you want to consider this next product. It's,
So in some of the areas where maybe the LVT wouldn't do quite as good, they have a product they use in higher traffic, less desirable areas for LVT. Now, Craig, go get it, just show it to them. It's kind of cool, it's neat, but it is a little bit more. But we could consider, you know, and we don't have to make the decision tonight, but as we get down the road a little bit, you know, between now and July, we could decide, hey, we may want to consider this product instead of LVT in a few limited areas, more high traffic areas where we might have problems. They said it's well, I'll let Craig, he talked to him, I don't remember. It was kind of the last minute after we had already opened bids, they said we might consider those.
Epoxy there.
Yeah, there's.
It's like
It
tight.
is real.
so this one.
So give us an
Right here,
example
you
of where
can't
you're
even
thinking
see
this is.
right here,
Oh, on
There were a
the.
couple.
where they put it together. Yeah, they just come in and he demonstrated it that it gets beat together with a rubber mallet, so it doesn't damage it, but they get it around, put a strip of glue around the outside of it, and every,
12 feet.
20 feet.
Or 20 feet.
They put a control joint in so that if it shifts, it can only shift so far. So that whole area, every 20 feet could shift it up to, you know, so it has to be.
It's like an expansion joint sheet.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you guys are welcome. I mean, it is.
You just said
You can
that
leave it
there.
over there. We'll see. Yeah.
So, you know, obviously we can't changed what the bid was. We put out a bid for a bid. And so down the road, if we wanted to make a change to something like that in a few areas, we could consider a change order and do something a little different, but Craig can continue looking into that.
And we do have an alternate number for this. It was after, it was Friday sometime when it came, so it had already gone live that we can.
What's your thought?
I like it. I want to put it in my garage.
How many more samples do we need to get?
Yeah, some of them, like the girls' locker room, guys, coming out of it. Pretty rugged. It would be really good.
There were a couple areas.
What about the ramp at Garfield where that carpet is?
Yeah, I like that idea, but custodian she thought it'd be too slick, but she hasn't seen it, so.
It's
Well,
still
kind of
nice.
rubbery, isn't it?
You
Yeah.
feel it. I
It's
thought
got
it'd
a
be
little-
more rubbery. It's not as rubbery.
It's got a little-
Feel it.
Little texture to it.
They didn't recommend it in certain areas, like they don't recommend it at the corridors in Lincoln because of the code base. So, the flooring company was very honest with the areas that even in high
It would work
traffic
well.
areas, it's like it shouldn't go there because of this reason.
We'll dig into it a little bit more.
I would like to see how well it wears, because if it's in a high traffic area, it could get pretty slick if it wears the texture. If it wears the texture.
So we should have them put a sample in your garage and test it
Yeah.
out. You can test it out.
We probably won't have as much high traffic in that raw.
Well, I mean,
Pure
if
fire
we need to.
Chiefs game.
Yeah, but anyhow. I like it.
I move to give final approval to accept the bid, including alternates from Floor Perfect LLC out of Salina, Kansas, in the amount of $218,540 to be completed in the summer of 2023.
Second.
Motion second. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next is the sidewalk, district-wide sidewalk and curb trip hazard project.
I think
The
we've
training
already-
talked about it.
You want to show them how of where all,
The pictures were
just kind of give
startling.
a view what areas we were talking about. Or can you show us?
Yeah, you can, it's a
There's
PowerPoint.
252 of them.
Oh,
Excuse me?
Like that.
Miles, I've ran in Clay County, in Clay Center, and I'm not surprised.
Only one I've done.
I got it. You want me to
I mean,
drive?
just one
Just
example, it's
one.
nice to see.
Go ahead. You said PowerPoint. should
Why
be
it's working.
a project.
Just click on each map, building map, the one that has a school on it, so the second slide. So all them yellow dots. And the fourth one,
Come on.
fourth slide. There's Lincoln and all the yellow dots. And number 6, Wakefield. Number 8. Not too many here. Number 10, middle school.
I just didn't realize we were responsible for it all the way to the street. It makes sense. I just hadn't thought about it.
We have to push snow on them and we are responsible for them.
Yeah, I just hadn't thought about it, that's all.
You have a sidewalk, if you have a sidewalk in front of your house in Clay Center,
Right.
you're responsible for it.
Yeah.
there. So wouldn't be any different.
Right. Just as a long sidewalk, you're responsible for it.
And they could, like I said, they scheduled us for, if you guys would approve, they tentatively scheduled us for this summer to do it all.
I'll make a motion to approve the Precision Concrete Cutting Midwest quote in the amount of $48,303.70 as presented.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Takes us to the next item, which is the district-wide, nope, sorry. The Mark A. Chapman Complex Site Paving bids.
Would you pull, oh, it's in my report. Just pull the report up, Jacqueline, that'd be fine. So this was a part of the owner scope portion of this project that VHS helped us with during that pre-construction planning. And so on all the owner scope pieces, they went out and bid these pieces. And so they did bid the site paving, but none of the prices that they got back were good. I mean, it was what was November or whatever it was. And so, and there was some slight changes like some in some different places, especially at the entrance. And some finalizations to, you know, where the building sat as such. And so you can pull that map up. And so the concrete package, the base bid package included the sidewalks from the softball down Prospect, across to the entrance, and the steps and paving coming down into the complex. Some gates in there and some pillars were included. The concrete around the restroom and concession building in between the track and the bleachers. The ADA, additional ADA parking over here. 6-inch parking or 6-inch paving with steel reinforcement. And then the great majority of this budget was for the stairway over here. It's a significant per square foot number because of the grade and the uniqueness of the stairs getting to and from.
Is that in this bid?
Yeah.
So
And the base bid.
So why do we have to have a sidewalk coming out of that parking lot to the street?
Just for accessibility.
softball, softball.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna have any ADA parking.
It's just grass, yeah.
Oh,
Why can't they just walk on? the
why can't they
track?
walk in the drive and walk across the street? I'm just asking for budget, not for budget numbers.
Good.
Why can't they walk on the track instead of on the sidewalk?
And you don't wanna have a whole bunch of people walk over your track.
So initially.
I mean, they try to keep people from walking on those rubber tracks as much as you can.
And that's,
Really,
you know, initially in the planning, you know, you wish you could think about absolutely everything, but as we've learned, you know, you always, I think it's kind of like building a house, you always remember something at the end, and this is something that our coaches came to us with, especially our track coaches, were like, man, could we have a sidewalk to keep them off the track during track meets? And so we did not have that budgeted, and so we asked for that as an alternate in the bid, so we could consider it. We also, and we'll have the arches here in a minute, but if we're able to get the arches up here, we need to move that white building over to here, and the track coaches want it here attached to this. So that, you know, during practice and when they're getting stuff in and out, they have access to concrete and they can wheel their carts all the way around. And so, that was an alternate too.
so if we don't do that entry like the proposal is, that we're not gonna move that white building.
I think the conclusion we've come to is just move it out of the way of the entrance regardless.
Well, I was gonna say, I figured it was gonna be in the way regardless.
Yeah, it actually, it doesn't impede entrance, but it's not ideal. Kind of one of those afterthoughts. Yeah, and so we did ask for that as an alternate to consider so that we could say no if we wanted to. But the thought process would be, and this and that would be budget additions, but we wanted, or we're asking that you guys would consider that while the concrete guy is here and mobilized. To consider that as a part of the concrete site paving.
That adds about a third of the original dollar.
Which one is?
I said adding the two alternates and the increase in the price is about 35 grand.
At 35 over the budget.
That,
Put you about 30% higher than what you had budgeted, just to give you an idea.
the sidewalk going over to the softball parking lot, does that just go to the parking lot?
Is it, so it runs parallel with the
Drive.
drive, right, on the,
So if
West
you
side.
have people pulling in that drive, they're not,
Looks like
people
east
walking
side.
out there.
east side of the drive. Oh, yeah, okay, true.
So they're gonna put the footings in the concrete for the, like, whether,
Footings in which concrete.
well, for like the entrance, I assume there has to be footings.
Yeah,
Are they gonna
so-
do that even if we don't get the money, so if it added later?
That's the thought process, is that we had significant footings in there already, but that we would, you know, in the next 30 days, if any donations that would come in, we would do a change order to this contract and say, hey, we don't just want the spot footings, because originally we're just gonna do pillars, you know, 4 pillars, but they would like a continuous footing all the way across. If the arches are able to be done, and yes, we would want that done with the concrete work,
Right, that's
and so you didn't have to dig some.
kind of hard to do, it, but you can't do it.
Yeah, we could be, but expensive,
Do it.
right?
So do
And
you
then
have
this
in the
red-
budget of the stadium to cover that?
Sorry,
Do you have that in the budget of the stadium to cover that?
the additional footings, you know, that would be donation.
Well, no, the 35,000 that we're over on this.
No,
No, not part of it. The 118 was part of the bid, the 15 and the 7 alternates are extra.
Right.
Plus then, I'm sorry, the 107 was the budgeted number.
correct.
The bid came in at 118. Plus the 7, plus the 15 is $34,000 of extra with the 2 alternates, including the bid
That's
that came in over the scope. So that's. where
So
the
tell
money's
me more
coming
about
from.
the stairs. The extensive staircase. What is our thought process behind doing that now? Is
That's
that
always been in the plan.
correct, but is it necessary? Would that be something we could,
Well, otherwise, they're gonna be walking up a grass hill,
maybe,
students accessing it.
oh, okay.
During the.
We're talking about student access, not spectator access.
So the band is gonna go up there and practice every
Okay.
morning. Your PE classes, your strength and
got you now.
conditioning classes, that's how they're gonna access it for practice. So
Okay,
gonna get used every day. Right now, they have.
I thought we were thinking of it as spectator parking,
No.
and I was like, well, that could be a potential area that we wouldn't necessarily need, but yes, students,
It's all for student and staff access from the high school.
high school, okay.
And this right here is the additional alternate, that's the alternate 2, this red. Okay. And the green is,
The green.
I'm sorry,
An
the
alternate.
red is 1.
Red's alternate and green.
Green is 2.
Yes,
I assume the bleachers underneath on the east side or the concrete's already budgeted or?
It
right,
is.
that's a different.
So is that part of this bid?
No.
No.
We're doing that in-house. Our kids are helping. We have a bunch of volunteers that are gonna do that, help for that. Kind of like we did the pad. We had a whole bunch of volunteers help us get it forward. And so our only cost is in the concrete and the steel.
We don't have a
And
bunch
it's
of kids
budgeted.
that wanna do alternate ones, do they? It's nice, square, nice rectangle pad.
It's just when he's here already pouring this.
Number 2 would be a lot easier for the kids, it's not very wide. It's long.
For
It's just
two.
sidewalk. For.
They're pretty busy. There was kids and staff up on, and teachers up on the roof to the building, putting the roof on all day today.
I saw
That green part, there's a curb on the outside of that track.
Correct.
So if they're gonna butt it right to that, they won't even have to run one side of
Yeah,
it.
really simple.
And I think I did the math on it. It's only like, it's like $6 a square foot, which is in what I've learned is a really good number in the concrete world right now. So I assume that's why.
Concrete's about $170 a yard right now. So.
Is that gonna come out of capital outlay or will that come out of?
It would be capital outlay. If you guys were to include it. great, like leadership there.
I'd like to make a motion to give final approval to accept the bid from TNM in the amount of $141,718.82, which includes the bid amount plus the alternate one and alternate two. Second. Motion and second. Any questions about that? Those in favor? Those not in favor? Motion carries 6-1. Let's move on then to I believe, ELA. ELA adoption.
Okay. Well, first of all, wanted to share with you ELA. As you guys know, I've been up it's been 6 years since we've done one. 6 years is kind of the going rate of curriculum cycles. When you make a purchase, you have access to online materials, consumables, workbooks, those kind of things. It used to be about 5 years, and in the last 5 to 6 years, we've seen more of a 6-year trend. That's pretty typical. The 6 years kind of nice because it lets you also reflect on any new evidence or research that has come about with instructional strategies to help. So it's been 6 years. We have, it has been really nice at the state level, a lot of the push for some reading research specific to dyslexia and just good brain research on reading development that I think has been very helpful to us as well. So we started our review process, as you'll remember, back in September. I've, kind of shared a little every month about what we've done. We had a group of 17 teachers that were involved in this process, going clear from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. We started with our data review by looking at our specific needs. And two things really stood out to really both groups, and just kind of looked different in the elementary as well as secondary. We felt we had a really strong phonics program, but we were using a phonics program separate from our comprehension, and so it just seemed a little fragmented. And so that was something they really wanted to look at. And then writing was a concern. I would say upper elementary through secondary, specific writing skills was definitely something they were honed in on as they went to look at resources. So we reviewed quite a few resources, front-end presenters, and when it came down to, we had to choose one or two that we kind of wanted to pilot and look at, which we did. We also visited some schools. We set up a Zoom day where we Zoomed different schools that were using different resources, and that was really helpful for our team as well. So we ended up deciding upon Houghton Mifflin, which has been around since, I think I look, late 1800s, early 1900s. Some of you might even remember seeing that on books that you've read, or for that reading instruction. Obviously, novels and other things play into it. We really feel like where we've ended up, that it is aligned with our reading standards. It meets some of the needs that we were seeing in our data, as well as what our teachers were sharing was a need that they had. There was some additional supplemental components, some online pieces that were extras that we tried during the pilot, but they were pretty pricey and not something we felt like was worth that. And in order to do those, would have to give up something else, and it just really wasn't a good fit for that part. So anyways, we felt really that where we ended up, it really met our needs. I know a few of our schools even had kids presenting at site councils on some of the exposure they had during their pilot and things, which was really awesome to see. I did enclose the scope and sequence for all of them, and I pulled up a few. I'm just going to show you a few of them. Under the K-6, this one is a kindergarten lesson called My Community Heroes. The central question is what makes a community. And as you go down, it kind of lists the different pieces that build into this. But the reason I wanted to show this, knowing your community partners such as police, fire, EMT on all those, that's actually a social studies standard as well. So our teachers were finding areas, I'm so sorry. New projector is not on the list, but, no. What was really nice for the teachers who were piloting is they found certain concepts that, and you know, in the elementary, we don't have, especially the lower elementary, social studies as topics. You know, needs versus wants, community partners, those kind of things. And they found them within here. And so they really felt like that was supportive and helpful to them. And it comes down and kind of tells you the different foundational skills that are in each of these modules or in the different weeks. So, again, they really felt good about the phonics. The current phonics program we're using is going to become more of an intervention, as well as our alphabetic phonics, which we have as well. So, that's a kindergarten example. This is a 6th grade example of surviving the unthinkable. What does it take to be a survivor? And kind of one of the mentor texts that's in here is Into the Lifeboat from Titanic. Different examples on here as well that they go through dealing with life after a hurricane. And one of the unit tasks was even tornadoes. There were some extra choices. They give you more in here than you probably have time for, and that is intentional so you can make decisions for your students and what their needs are. This is an example from 10th grade, I believe. This is Macbeth. I know sometimes the standards have gotten slammed that they have done away with some really good literature, and that's actually not true. Romeo and Juliet is in here, as well as Macbeth, which is really pretty cool. Again, our teachers have been piloting things throughout the last actually semester. So they have on here, everything's out there. We started looking at a way we can, especially the first year, be pretty just an accountability piece to our standards, where we have, here's our scope and sequence, here are our standards. Which lesson hits what, which ones are we not going to use, which ones do we keep? Just trying to build that system that really helps a kid grow kindergarten through 12th grade, no matter what skill they're working on. Like many of the products and things you guys look at for capital outlay, technology doesn't matter. Things are more expensive than they were. You know, and so because of that reason, we really went, what were we going to use, and try to, like I said, take away some of those supplemental things that they didn't feel they needed, and felt like we had a really good resource bank to meet our needs.
So the kids have access to the insight and resources,
Have access to what?
the insight and resources on the website.
They have access to the platform, which is what is on the scope and sequence.
So embracing the inclusivity of cultural responsive books. Those won't creep into our schools.
So you're talking about the article?
Well, there's all kinds of them.
Well, there's,
There's a whole list of books you can get.
well, what we have access to is on the scope and sequence.
Yeah, I looked at all,
Directly look
I
at
looked at all 310 pages of the K6. But being a digital copy, they're not gonna show you what they can put in there. I feel like they did on the website, actually. With the My Rainbow, Your Name song, you know,
Mhm.
I guess I don't feel like that's a teacher's job to teach my child about.
Okay, well, you're referencing,
About anti-blackness, anti-LGBTQ, transgender.
well, you referenced, for example, the book My Rainbow, and that is actually not the scope and sequence.
It's
That
on
is,
their web, I know that, but it's on their website. The relevant books to look at.
it sure is, and that is an article written by a UCLA doctoral student. Again, what we are purchasing is what is on the scope and sequence, which is why I attached that document. And it has all of the things that the kids and teachers would have access to.
Jason, wouldn't your concern also be that a child would have access to that beyond this curriculum? Really, it's not what we're purchasing as a district. So a child would have access to any of those things
Yeah, we don't need to teach. them
beyond. That's not what we're,
that. Mm,
that's not what we're purchasing.
That's fine. That's fine that you feel okay with it. I don't. And it's perfectly fine, Paige.
Jason, that is not what I said. That's untrue from what I just stated.
So it's available through this company that if the teachers wanted to use it as a resource, I'm just trying to figure
No.
out how.
No, it is an article written by a doctoral student giving suggestions for read alouds. It's been, but if you look up, a lot of doctoral students, whatever, doing their research, then give those inputs. What we are purchasing is in the scope and sequence right here. Those are what we have access to.
So
That is what our
everything that's
teachers
listed
have.
on that company's website is not what will be in our classroom. What's in the scope and
What's in the
sequence
scope
is
and
what would be in
sequence
our
is what we have
classrooms.
purchased.
So you will guarantee my child not see anything like that.
I will tell you, we are
What is
purchasing
it
what
that you
is on
want
the
to
scope and
guarantee for? Like,
sequence.
help me understand that.
Like, I don't want my child to given this resource about transgender, anti-blackness, LGBTQ. That's not for the school to teach my child.
So I think something to clarify, I understand where you're coming from and don't disagree with what you're saying. Our teachers don't teach their or anybody else's beliefs or core values. It's no different than stuff that you might read in Romeo and Juliet or Macbeth. You know, there's things in there that Jeff's family might not agree with, that April's might not agree with, but I do. The teacher doesn't teach whether that belief is right or wrong, no matter what's written in a story. Is what our teachers have done for the last 20 years in the state of Kansas and all over the country and in our district. When they expose kids to literature, whether it be, you know, long running historical literature or new literature, is not to preach a belief or a concept. The only thing that our teachers teach when they encounter content, whether it be race, whether it be color, whether it be wealth, when those topics come up in a classroom, because they do, because our schools are filled with different races, different wealth classes, all kinds of differences in us. And when those things come up in the classroom, as they do, our teachers come at it from a viewpoint of, hey, kids, our school, our town, our state is made up of a lot of differences. And you may agree, you may disagree with those. And it's not my place to tell you what to agree with or what not to agree with. But is what we teach and preach to our kids is kindness and respect. You don't have to agree or believe in other people's differences, but we and our staff, not just here all over our great state, our teachers, that's what they teach when they encounter troubling content is we need to treat every individual with respect and kindness, because guess what? You're going to have to go into a workforce and work next to people that you may not agree with their beliefs. You may not agree with their values. So if you ask what our teachers are teaching, that's what they are teaching, regardless of what a student brings up. Because most of the time, these topics don't come up in a story or a book. They come up. I have a perfect example. I remember teaching second grade, and we were reading a story, and one of the little young people raised their hand and shared a very specific story about their family and what their family's beliefs were. And how I addressed that as a teacher was, yes, you are correct. So and so your life looks a lot different than your neighbors. Your life looks a lot different than mine. It doesn't matter what those are. We are different. But the most important thing is when we're together, even if we disagree with that person or their belief, we have to treat each other with respect and kindness. And I'll stand by that guarantee 100% that our staff don't push values or beliefs onto our kids, but they will teach respect and kindness always teach respect and kindness from differing views.
As someone who's got 5 kids in the school district, although 2 of them are now out of our school district. That's the message that has been taught. Just kindness, respect, and listening. And I trust the expertise of our teachers and that made this decision. And I'll respect their expertise. And so I am supportive of the curriculum choice that they made, that will provide the education that our kids need.
I don't disrespect the teachers that made the decision. It's just really alarming that I can find it on the company's website. That bothers me more than anything. So.
I appreciate your passion for our students.
Any further questions for Jacqueline?
I move to accept the ELA curriculum adoption for K-12 as presented.
Second, motion accepted, a motion and a second to accept as presented. Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-2. Next item is the auto unroof stone relocation to the new facility.
Yeah, so. We, as you know, this has been a long process and there's been a desire and an interest from various community groups and people in our community to try to see if we can find ways to incorporate some of the old stadium into the new. And there was a lot of unknowns going into it. And so it was really hard to plan for. Number one, we didn't know who was going to buy it or if it was going to sell. Number two, if the buyers would even allow us the opportunity to use any of the pieces from that. And so when we engaged in the planning process and budgeting process, we didn't count on being able to use the stone from the old stadium. And number two, or number three, we didn't know if it would actually be able to be removed into a functional material to be moved. And so the new owners that did buy it have been extremely willing to allow us to use anything that we need for the new site from the old facility. Lots of different examples. A neat one that we learned about a couple of weeks ago was when they were taking the light poles down, they also took the tallest flagpole down from out there that has a lot of history to it. And Thomas Mulligan is going to take those parts, sandblast that flagpole and repowder coat it, and it will be able to be used up there. Anyhow, the big unknown was the stone. The new owners did work with local mason Bill Ham to see, hey, can these arches even be taken out? Is there enough usable stone to be able to do something? Long story short, he dove into it and was able to harvest. Using the 3 archways that were there, he was able to harvest enough material from the archways to make 2 usable and functional archways using the stone from auto unroof and all the rest of the surrounding stone. So we took a lot of the corners out and caps and different things. And so that has all been removed and is being stored with the hopes that the group could raise some money to be able to relocate the archways to the new site. As Jason pointed out a little bit ago, we would have to add a little bit of footing work underneath that to have one solid footing go across the entrance. But all in all, with the stone, the man hours he has in taking it out, the man hours that his crew would have putting it back in, the gates, the windows, the ticket booth would sit right in. I don't know if you can, I'm not a driver, but the ticket booth sits right in behind here, and Thomas would build archways that fill the gap like they had at the old site. And if, again, they raised enough money, you have a little bit out here, the new archway, flag poles going in, electricity going over, some additional money for concrete and some railings and metal windows, doors, a roof for the concession stand box. I had VHS help us develop a really safe budget for what that would cost to ensure that, you know, we didn't have to ask for any more, but the budget number would be 175 to be able to put this, actually relocate these arches up to the new facility. And the goal would be that those funds would all be raised privately to be able to accomplish that work. And I just wanted to have you guys allow you guys an opportunity to see that, hear that, process that a little bit. Um, Pretty exciting. I think it would be a huge wow factor and set and allow some of the history to be preserved, so.
Can will we put a plaque or something somewhere else, maybe given the history on, like.
They've
where
saved,
it's from and.
they have the
Kind of give-
bronze, original bronze plaque from 1940 that were there. It's preserved and saved too, and it would be added to the entrance.
Comments for Mr. Nelson? No motions required, just information. Thank you. Great thing to see it then. Next item is the bid opening for Court Street property.
Anticlimactic, or no bid. No bid.
So I guess then we do have a decision, I mean, so keep it open for a period of time. I mean, that's a decision to make at this point. I think we said,
Or can we offer it to the original, because we had a bidder, correct, last time,
we did,
and we could make an offer at what they
Oh,
were willing to bid. Yeah.
or we could, sure.
What's it gonna cost us to know that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's better than having to mow it all summer.
I think we should keep it and have our construction class build a house on it next year. We're needing housing in Clay Center, Wakefield.
Or put a price on it.
Is it in a residential, it's
I assume it is.
It's
a
already
place
zoned.
that could be zoned residential?
What would be the, I mean, what would be the, availability of our kids to go down to that site? I mean, is that possible?
I think if we did it, we
You
built.
build the house up there and move
Okay,
it.
so you're saying not build it. on-
Yeah, no, but build it like we normally do and move it over there.
I got you.
Yeah, so it'd be ironic
And then-
to move the stadium and build a
Then we-
house up in Carter, that's it.
Yeah, no, I'd build it up there where they normally build it and then move it. You know, and you could put it on, you'd have to put it on a crawl space or a basement. But, because you won't be able to move it without doing that. You can't put it on a slab. But you won't have no way to get the rails out from underneath it. So you'd have to do like a 4-foot crawl space or do a basement, but. You know, it's a potential.
You said leave it open.
Well,
What did you say?
we've talked about buying lots. To do something like that.
There was a lot over there by Lincoln where that house caught fire. There's a lot over there by Lincoln that house caught fire and I'm sure the city would love to get rid of it. I mean, as far as that goes, that's another potential site. You know, instead of trying to, you know, I mean, then you have the cost of trying to sell it after the fact, but I think there's some potential if you got places.
Well, we've talked, if you do something like that to try to draw in, staff or.
Staff or something like that, yeah.
Offer some kind of.
Hey, we'll have a place for you to live.
Mhm,
I think there's also student teacher housing maybe too.
or something,
I just something to think about, but
yeah.
you do whatever you want with it.
Would you, Jeff, would you like us to keep the bid open for a while
It doesn't matter.
before?
I mean, if you don't keep it open, you won't be able to take bids,
Right,
but
right.
if you do keep it open, you can, but. What's it, I mean, it's not hurting us to keep it open.
And at this point, I guess one of the questions I had is, do you want to leave it in the formal process of sealed bids by such and such date, or, I mean, we have a sign out there now that it's for sale, and just try to get word that you're interested, talk to Brett, I mean, and just more of a,
Is there a phone number on the sign?
I don't know,
Yeah.
but
It's
$4. That's
I'd
probably
be
good
okay
enough.
with that.
so rather than saying, okay. you have-
Whether you're saying sealed bids from now, we're taking that to.
That'd be fine.
Just leave it
So,
open-ended and.
people can
we'll have to contact.
contact and you can bring offers to the board next.
And if we don't have anything, come back to it in June, can you address in June?
Yeah.
We're not even.
And it can just stay for sale until we come up with a different.
Plan for it.
plan.
I think that sounds reasonable. Okay, do we need to make a motion for that? No, are you doing?
No, but I mean, it's,
Okay. Okay, are we all in agreement, I guess, consensus? That's how we want to move forward?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, technology purchase is the next item. And the last item under business items tonight.
Have a quote on there for our eighth grade laptops, which we have typically done in April, so we can get them ordered in here and worked on, ready to go. And the other part was gonna be to fill in PK2, and when we looked, it was really our Chromebooks that needed it. So that was under the 20,000 threshold. So I put both of them on there. So eighth grade laptops at 87,900, which was the same as our last grade level one as well. And then the Chromebooks at 19,968.
I moved to get final approval to purchase the technology items as presented.
Motion is second. All those in favor? Motion carries 7-0. On to the next section, which is the next meeting. I have some information there. Obviously, we'll have
More RFPs.
RFPs. Yep. So we'll talk about those in the next meeting. Future items. So House Bill 2567 to discuss. She brought that up a little bit last month as well. And then also the status of e-learn, which.
Virtual approval, that means,
Yeah,
right?
that's what that is. And on the bids, we should have it ready for the May board meeting. Our 5 o'clock release is coming due. She likes the biz website. So, because our current one ends July 1. So, we should have that by the May board meeting as well. We're gonna try to get those out here in the next week or so. And give a 2-week open period for that, so.
Any items anyone wants to add to the list? All right, so then we'll take a couple minute break and then we'll enter into executive session and we need to sign some students. Okay.
It's on, okay, it's open. I don't know.
It's, okay, we're open. Okay, I move that we go into executive session to discuss items included in the CCEA negotiations letter pursuant to the negotiations exception under KOMA. The open meeting shall resume at 8:40 in the boardroom. The executive session will include the board superintendent and council.
Second.
Those in favor? Carried. Okay, I move we go into executive session to discuss confidential student matters pursuant to the student exception under KOMA. The open meeting will resume at 8:46 here in this room. Executive session will include the board, superintendent, council. Mr. Nelson, do you need anybody else?
No.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor, motion carries 7-0.
Unmute.
It is unmuted. Okay, we're ready for the personnel section of our meeting tonight. Employments, resignations, and retirement.
I move to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve as presented. All those in favor? Carried 7-0. Temporary summer employment also on the agenda.
I move to approve the temporary summer employment as presented.
Second. Motion and second to approve. All those in favor, motion carries 7-0.
I move to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor of adjourning, motion carries 7-0.
I just thought I'd make it a hat trick.